Hold on. Let me see what happened. We in here, B. Coach Reed Live show. Monday night, I'm in here with Brandon Clay. Smoke Dixon is going to join us here shortly. He had a previous engagement. I think after Georgia Tech lost, Alabama alums wanted to have an emergency meeting to make sure that they was prepared for the post.
That's
Nick,
hilarious, man.
Nick Saban,
PPT meeting, dog.
yeah,
Emergency.
Smoke had to go to emergency alumni meeting after Florida State lost.
No,
You know,
I'm excited, man. I mean, you know me. I'm a basketball guy at heart. Y'all see it behind me, but man, I love football, college football, pro football, the whole deal. Big shout out to John Clay Jr. We were on the phone for an hour talking about the Falcons yet again, getting ready for the 53-man roster cut coming tomorrow at some point. It's that time of year, man. Florida State, Georgia Tech. The state is always a little bit better when Georgia Tech is good. Obviously, Kirby and the crew are at the top of the throne right now. But Georgia Tech gave them some resistance back in November, just after Thanksgiving. So Reed, I'm not shocked at what happened, man. But give us your take. Obviously, a tough way for Florida State fans coming off the debacle that Georgia handed them. Now it's Georgia and Georgia Tech. They're 0-2 versus the Peach State in their last two games.
man, styles make fights, and Georgia Tech has a style that is probably not the best matchup for Florida State with the way they can run the ball, and they can run the ball inside zone, outside zone, power O offense. They were able to really control the line of scrimmage, and they just pushed those guys around. I think that it's important to note also that this is not the same Florida State team of a year ago. And a lot of times people think that the season is a continuum of last season. They lost some major NFL pieces off that Florida State team. When you talk about Jared Verse on the defense, when you talk about Kalen DeLoach, when you talk about on the offensive side, you lost your quarterback, you lost Keon Coleman. Like they lost some dudes off that team. So you don't just pick up from last season. It's a completely new team. It's a completely new way you have to play. And I do think this though. I think Mike Norvell is going to rally his team and find a way for those guys to be successful and move the ball and win football games. It's going to look different. It's not going to necessarily be running 90 plays a game on offense, going super fast balls to the wall because that doesn't necessarily fit this team and DJU's skill set. And DJ just been getting beat up, man. But from a standpoint of Florida State, I think their program is still in good shape. They have an impressive defensive line, but defensive linemen, if you can challenge them in the run game and make them have to stop the run and you can get positive yards, that's how you beat a strong defensive line because those guys want to pin their ears back and rush the passer, and that's what makes them the most dangerous. But when you are just hitting guys in the mouth, and when you think about Georgia Tech and Brent Key used to be the offensive line coach at Alabama, so you know what his style is and what he intends to do. When he comes out there, man, I think that Georgia Tech is going to be very, very formidable, right? But I'm not sure that they're going to be the same kind of matchup for every team. But I think they did a great job. They hired a new defensive coordinator in Tyler Santucci, who was the defensive coordinator at Duke for Mike Elko. Previous to that, he was the linebacker coach at Texas A&M for Elko when he was the D coordinator, and he brought a breath of fresh air to defense. They did a great job flying around to the ball, making some plays, and the most important thing, getting Florida State off the field on third down. You know, whoever wins third down, I mean, that's a major stat in the game, and they did a tremendous job with that, B.
It's interesting. You talk about third down, and then I like to talk about the turnover ratio too. Those are the two things that I look at more times than not in terms of who wins games. It's 50-50 in basketball, right? 50-50 balls, and usually who can control the glass and score inside of 5 feet. Then when you look at what Brick Key is, they're tough. They're just tough inside the tackles and obviously from edge to edge there, man. And they picked up a big one today. Saw that Cooper Patanga, actually 24/7 Sports shot him out. Heck of a week for Georgia Tech, but they added Christian Garrett, who flipped from Georgia to Georgia Tech on the D line. 4-star guy, really big addition. Those are not the kind of guys that Georgia Tech has traditionally gotten, but what a time to get him, right? You beat the number 10 team in the country. You go overseas to do it. You wind up with these kind of kids. People pay attention. You say this all the time. People pay attention to winners, put some wins on the board, and Brent Key did just that this weekend. He just wanted to get the day on the recruiting trail.
You know, man, they recruiting with an SEC mentality. They were like the South has so many good football players, and when you got guys like Santucci, when you got guys like Brent Key, when you got guys like Norval McKenzie, the running back coach at Georgia Tech, who's been everywhere in the South, played at Vanderbilt. When you have those kind of guys on the staff that are familiar with recruiting the top players in the South, you are going to get some big time additions, and they got that. And when you start winning, it make recruits get really excited after big wins. After program change and wins, there's going to always be a commitment or two for programs.
You said something to me today before we slide subjects about transfers and what that looks like. And obviously, DJ Youngale from Florida State and the fact that he's been multiple places now. Talk to us about your take on that and kind of what that looks like from him before we move on.
It's hard, man. You on your third school. And so by the time you get to your third school, I mean, you've been in 3 different systems. You haven't really given yourself a chance to grow in any of the systems. And I think that's tougher to do from a quarterback standpoint than any other position. Defensive lineman can get away with it, maybe a corner, receiver, running back. I think quarterback, offensive line, I just think it's really tough in those high mental positions for you to be able to jump from program to program and have the success and ignore the development that you need to have to keep improving.
No, I agree with that. And I think, and obviously you don't want to take it too far, but you'll understand the reference here. For all of the flack around Baker Mayfield early in his career, he had 7 different coordinators in an 8-year span, right? I don't care who you are, not named Tom Brady. Tom Brady could get away with it, right? But he had put so many wins on the board that he could get away with any types of changes you wanted, and the head coach stayed the same. But when you don't have that opportunity, whether it be you leaving voluntarily, you being shown the door, but when you have that much turnover inside of your own space, right? Smoke said this best last week. It's a game that's played from the neck up. You have to be able to play it here. Well, part of being able to play it here is knowing your read. Sit with the same person week in and week out, talking about film. The verbiage is the same. The language is the same. The reads and what you're looking for, your progressions are all the same. And unfortunately, for a number of reasons, that just hasn't been the case for him. And it's showing up. His inability to be able to make play after play. When you're only averaging 7 yards a throw, it's just not enough. It's just not enough.
And when you think about when you change coordinators and you change system, even if the system stays the same, but the terminology changes, you have to go back and rethink what we called it this and they calling it that. It's a lot of mental anguish to that. One of the reasons that Tom Brady was able to have the success he had is him and the coach were a constant.
Yep.
And they were able to build. Andy Reid, you're seeing it right now with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. They're able to build. And so when you can get on the same page, but it's hard. Coaches get fired quick. And players get benched quick if they don't perform right away. So you kind of got to catch it at the right time and keep it going, and that can be extremely difficult to do.
Absolutely. Talk to me about, obviously, huge news today. Cooper Flagg, freshman at Duke, had a banner, really last 24 months. It's almost unheard of what he did. I'll get into some of that in a minute. Give us your take on him signing with New Balance. That's a little bit different. Obviously, you've got some connections and things that happen over there. What's the takeaway there for you? And then I'll give you my piece.
Man, I think with Cooper, obviously, he's been the best player in the country in his class for a long time, played on the Nike circuit. But I think this is par for the course. Nike has been known to not, what they feel like, overpay for guys that have been on their circuit. You've seen tons of guys who've been on the Nike circuit over the years, ended up signing with Adidas, ended up signing with Under Armour, ended up signing with New Balance. Those programs, those companies sometimes are willing to pay a little bit more for a guy like Cooper. And so to me, it's going to be interesting to see the plan and how that develops over a period of time. But I think it's a big time move for Cooper. The interesting thing, Darren Heitner said this today on Twitter, a big time sports attorney. Um, he would have to get permission from Duke to be able to wear New Balance gear shoes on game day. So he still is most likely going to have to wear Nikes while he plays at Duke, and his New Balance stuff would be worn off the court and probably some of his promotional things, away from the team.
It'll be interesting to see, first of all, how long it takes for someone to fight that, because they're going to fight it, right? In the same way that Damian Lillard gets to at least wear his Adidas shoes, even though the NBA sponsors the league. Under Armour, like there's going to be some dollar threshold that comes about in the NCAA level where if that brand is a corporate partner of the NCAA in totality, they can wear it. Flage's with Puma, but LSU's Nike, right? Like it'll be interesting to see when it happens. It's going to happen. What's a Faison Brandon today out of North Carolina, committed to Tennessee, challenging the system now. North Carolina, why can't I get paid at the high school level? You're going to see that at some point. It's going to be interesting to see who does it.
The difference between college sports and the pros, though, is they have a union and they collectively bargain, for their rights. College still is a far way away from that. I'm interested to see how the case goes with the young man that's suing the state of North Carolina. The private school division, North Carolina is one of those states that has a public association and a private association. So I believe the private schools are allowing guys to get name, image, and likeness money, but the public schools are not. Typically, in situations like this, when people fight it in the past, those sanctions, those rules have been lifted. But I don't think it's going to affect him. That ruling won't take place till after he's gone.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. And even to the flag discussion here, New Balance wise, his situation was so unique, right? The reclass back up out of 25 into 24, still remained at number one. Never played 17U. I think people will forget that over the course of time, right? Played 16U. Obviously, the Bruiser brothers were kind of the adversary with Knight Riders at the 16U level. They kept them down to give Man United someone to play. He wanted to kind of stay in his own lane, with his friends that they had always played with. So they had the Man United group. It will be in the U.S. select team even in terms of boosting the profile this summer out in Vegas. To a man, it was Cooper Flagg is one of the best guys in here, irrespective of age. So, is he able to take that next step now over the next 18 months, put himself in the Rookie of the Year discussion in the winter of 2025, and all of a sudden, for the first time, New Balance got a damaged Kawhi Leonard, if we're being very transparent. They haven't really been able to utilize him because he hadn't been playing basketball. Does New Balance finally have a cornerstone signature athlete who can be a top 15, 20 player in the NBA day in and day out? Kawhi, obviously, we remember him as such, San Antonio, Toronto, but he hasn't been able to play at that level in years through the duration of his New Balance contract. Do we finally get an opportunity to see New Balance activate around it? And then obviously Cam Brink on the women's side, right? So you potentially have Cam Brink, assuming she's able to come back healthy, and no reason why she can't. Cooper Flagg, Cam Brink, and now New Balance is off to the races and running, man.
That gives them some incredible pieces to work with. I think Cooper Flagg is going to be fine. What I like about him more than anything is he's a dog. You know what I mean? Now, he's got some skills, he's got some game, but he just plays with a toughness and a tenacity that you don't see young people play with anymore. Be like a lot of young kids today don't play hard. They don't play that hard. I've been to a few high school football games, and I'm always looking to see kids that play hard, and Cooper Flagg, in addition to having super skills, super ability, being number one, he still plays the game very hard and with intensity. And, I get excited about seeing that.
I love that. Hey, I got to throw something in here, a little off script. Give me the quick 90-second rundown on my guy, Young Martell, as you went and watched him play the other night. Give me the rundown on my boy Martell's Carter, man. Talk to me, man.
Well, listen, man, I went to see Martell. He's my godson, committed to the University of Kentucky, top 200 recruit in the class of 25. Remarkable player, plays receiver, plays DB. Now, so they got a lot going on down there. They have a really good football team. They got another kid committed to Vandy. They have an offensive tackle, Jarvis Strickland, class of 26, one of the best offensive linemen in the country. I think that, he can play anywhere he wants to play. He's going to get to choose his school. I think the coach does a good job. Number one, this is my first time being at Paducah Tillman in Kentucky. Tremendous environment. for football. Great crowd, great environment, great student section. And I was talking to Devin, to my son, and he was like, guys making TikTok videos and you got all the cameras and stuff. That wasn't my thing during college coaching. You know what I mean? I might have I wouldn't have had the cameras and stuff on the sideline. I thought that was a little too much. But he played a big game. He told me, he said, I'm gonna return the opening kick for a touchdown if they kick it to me. And they kicked it to him right down the middle of the field, which you
Wow.
never you never kick the ball down the middle of the field to a great player. Like that's like a no-no. He took it to the house. I'm excited. They lost in the semis last year. So they on a state championship run. Their goal is the state championship. I was really excited to see him. How electrifying he is with the ball, I'd like to see them let him play offense in college instead of defense. But
I'm with
I
that.
might have to get on the phone and
Make a call, man.
and make a call and see what we can work out. But it was exciting to go see him play.
So I'll say this to the kicking the ball down the middle of the field. I remember in high school, so North Gwinnett and Beaufort were rivals. It's not really that way anymore, but the schools are right next to each other, school district-wise back then. And so, North Gwinnett, we weren't very good. And so we could just keep Beaufort to like beating us by 25 or so. That was a win for the school. I didn't play. We would just pull up. It's Friday Night Lights. You just out there walk around trying to get a phone number or something. Man, it was 7:03. Game starts at 7. It's 7:03. Crowd going crazy. Everybody looking around. The ball got kicked to Tim Wansley, who ended up playing in the NFL, was a star at Georgia. Huge shout out to my guy, Tim Wansley, has become a friend of mine over the years. But I remember him watching him run around like he was Michael Vick on us before Michael Vick was popular. And we tackled him at like the 20-yard line, our 20-yard line. The return was like 60 some odd yards, and the crowd was going crazy because he didn't score. That's how good at those high school levels, the guys like a Wansley or Martells, the dudes that can really got the jetpack on their back, they're so electrifying. The crowd is literally cheering if they don't score. It's crazy.
B, when I was the coach at Lutheran North, we were playing Trinity in the district championship. And you remember how loaded those teams were. That was a big-time game, about 10,000 people there that night. And all week, I told my special teams coach and kicker, you got one job. Do not kick the ball to Mookie Cooper, who starts at receiver for Mizzou now, and James. Don't kick it to him, right? We jump out on Trinity 15-0, B, and I'm like, oh, we finna run them out the stadium. We got all the momentum. I'm on the bench talking to the offensive line, and you can hear the ball kicked. I know it's not going. I'm not worried because I know we're not kicking it to Mookie and Frenchie. And you just see the stands behind the bench. Everybody stands up and starts screaming. And by the time I turn around, Frenchie is twerking in the end zone.
That's the worst.
He done hit his head. And I look to the special teams coach, and he's like, he was feeling it. I don't remember what he said. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to say on this show what I said to him, but it definitely it fractured our relationship at the time. We ended up winning that game though, so it was all good. We were able to redeem ourselves, but it definitely put some pressure.
That was before the TikTok era. He might have done a TikTok dance when he scored on you, dog.
Man, I'm gonna tell you what, and if you lose a game in St. Louis, you're gonna be on everybody's social media. You know how that goes.
That's hilarious. Hey, walk us through. I know it's been a back and forth, and I hate the smoke gonna miss it tonight. But give us your rookie of the year watching the WNBA. A lot of good basketball being played. Talk to us about what you're seeing, Reed.
Well, you know what? I feel like you just set me up with this question.
I would never.
I'm glad Smoke is not here tonight because obviously Angel Reese had another double-double, 20 rebounds. But Caitlin Clark is starting to really take off. She's starting to be the player that people thought she was going to be. And it's taken her some time to get adjusted. The Olympic break was probably really good for her. I saw a thing where Kevin Garnett said, the Olympic break, she was probably able to study and kind of get in her groove in terms of that. But I still would like to see a scenario where her and Angel Reese are rookies of the year. That's what I would like to see, B.
I'm cool with that. I mean, again, I think a lot about the Grant Hill, Jason Kidd days, and I wasn't old enough to have like a real adult voter feeling there. I just knew that both of them dudes could hoop, man. I love watching Jason Kidd at Cal Berkeley. I obviously love watching Grant at Duke, and for both of them to come get busy in the league right away, I was like, yo, those are both my guys. So I'm cool with it. And there's a lot of respect, I think, from me to both sides of it. I think the pressure, the more I have a chance to kind of unpack why I feel the way I feel about Caitlin Clark. I told somebody the other day, I can't imagine being 22, 23 years old, coming off the two national title game run in a scenario that no one would have ever predicted. Like, let's go back to COVID, right? And if someone had told you Iowa, of all schools, is going to make 2 appearances in a row with Caitlin Clark and not another person that's drafted in the first round. Kate Martin felt like she was barely selected. She's having a really good start to her career in Las Vegas. But you had told us all these things were going to happen in succession. And then I think Caitlin played like 11 games in like 18 days to start the season. Like, they did her no favors. It just felt like a lot of basketball and a lot of mental weight. Just, she's a literal rock star at this point, right? Like, she needs security. They have charter planes. Like, all these things are happening. And so I think for her to be playing, even back in the early part of the year, obviously she's kind of navigated the game, but, even into that second third of what has been her season so far, it is almost incomprehensible to think about being able to do what she's done with such a short turnaround. It wasn't like she got a full summer and the fall and time to catch the open runs at UCLA and get acclimated. Like, there are no open runs in the women's game like that. One day you're at Iowa, 6 weeks later you're in training camp, and the 7th week you're playing basketball. And so for her to be doing what she's doing at this level this soon, statistically, to me, it just, not only does it jump off the page, but we've never seen anything like it. And again, the totality of it, right? The picture the other day, I don't know if you saw it, but at Maya Moore's retirement ceremony, where Caitlin's taking it in, she's looking up at the rafters, and there are those like 5 or 6 kids behind her with the jerseys on. It's just the coolest, I think, again, all of it together. It's one of the coolest sports moments for me. Not just basketball moments, women's basketball moments, but sports moments. Like, I don't remember a moment like that for a young LeBron James. Like, just, again, all of it, right? So, the Rookie of the Year discussion, I'd be perfectly fine. If you said it's both of them, I have no problem with it. But I think just trying to take in the whole thing that we're getting right now is just super cool, man, for someone who's been involved in the game 23 plus years, and on the women's side for a lot of that, to see this happening, I almost can't believe what I'm seeing still, man. It's been real cool.
Hey, B, real quick. Taking in the whole thing is crazy. That's absolutely crazy for you to say, taking in the whole thing. Shout out to Mason Cameron. Pause. Shout out to Mason Cameron.
You're a wild dude, man.
Taking in the whole thing is absolutely crazy to say.
Hey, man, if the shoe fits, man, it was like, it went with what I was saying. It was Le'Veon Bell that was like, hey, man, like, he couldn't help but start laughing. He tried to defend himself. Yeah. He just had to let it ride, man. Just put your hands up. Oh, my bad, man. I own that one. It's been cool, though. And I think another one to watch, obviously not Rookie of the Year discussion, but Rakia Jackson in Tennessee is starting to heat up. She had, 25, 26 the other night. Like, she's starting to get it really rocking. And then I'll say this one more time for the people in the back. Nafisa Collier overall does not get enough love. The season she's putting together is, I don't want to say extraordinary, because that's probably going a little far, but it's elite level basketball, right?
Brandon,
Asia Wilson's awesome, but Nafisa Collier is amazing.
Where's Nafisa from?
I don't know, somewhere in the Midwest, I think. She might be from Atlanta, dog.
No.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, she from Missouri. We get it, right? We get it.
No, she's not from Missouri.
And now Missouri, man. I ain't giving you no credit. Missouri. I'm not giving you no credit. She probably from like St. Charles, O'Fallon, or something. Dog. She not from like right there. She's not from Lutheran North.
He's from St. Louis. She's not from Missouri.
Hey, we can get the 314 plug every episode. I love that. The Nafisa Collier story, we'll move on. She's going into the 9th grade. And Reggie Middlebrook, who runs Missouri Phenom, she comes to play with him at an event in Augusta that I'm running. And he's like, Clay, I got this kid. I need you to come watch her. So she's hooping. I'm watching. Anytime a director tells me to pull up on a kid is at my event, I'm pulling up. Easy. Nothing else to it. We get about 6 minutes in, and I'm like, yo, this kid can do everything. Like, she's really, really good. Skilled, good athlete, smooth. Everything that y'all are seeing today, she was doing at like 15 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at him, I said, yo, she's going to be a 2-game All-American. So I meet her, my mom and dad, after the game, and kind of reiterated the same thing to them. And they looked at me like, really? I'm like, yeah, y'all, she's really, really good. And for all of that, I still wouldn't have said she would have been this good. Yeah. I would have said she'd have been really, really good, but she has taken it to another level, even after having a child, which is hard work, right? Like, I can't imagine how your body could change and all the other things that come along with parenthood, being a mother. She is in elite level shape, walking around with the game, holding the baby, after the game, holding the baby, as if she didn't just give you 40 minutes and real basketball, 25 points and 12 boards, to see what she's become as a professional. Not to mention gold medalist. We could go on and on. But shout out to Nafisa Collier from the 314, man.
Nafisa Collier had a baby, and when my wife had CR3, she couldn't walk 2 steps, man. You know what I mean? Nafisa Collier went out and made the all WNBA team. I got to go.
Let me tell you something right now. You know, I think if y'all play one-on-one after the show was over, man, Claudia give it to you 12. I'm going to give you 2 points. I'm going to say you got 2 in there somewhere. I think you get cooked 12-2. I hope she hears this from me.
Hey, listen, bro. We were in the hospital when he got delivered, right? And the doctor's there, and like I'm right there on top of the action. And, you know, they always tell you don't look on the other side of that curtain. You know what I mean? And so, but I'm all on the curtain. And when he popped out, I'm looking at the doc like, Doc, that's it? We paying you all this money for this? That's it, right? That's all you got to do. I felt like I can do it after I watched the doc do it, man.
No, at some point, your wife probably looked at me like, boy, if you don't be quiet right now and y'all hand me this child, you should never speak to me again, man.
I'm like, Doc, well, this is it, bro. What's going on, Doc?
That's hilarious. Okay, hey, you know what comes up this week? We talking week 0, week 1, week 0.5. Oh, here she go. I was waiting. Perfect timing, Claudia. Talk to me about what you're expecting to see week 1 across the board. Obviously, Colorado coming off that 4-8, but it was a 4-8 that was close. Is the offensive line better? That was the one thing you said to me 12 months ago. Clay, I don't think the offensive line is deep enough. They can't afford any injuries, and that never happens. Give me your take for this year, man. What we got?
Hey, listen, they're much better. They're not only a little bit better, they're much better, and they're deeper. They can go to a backup if they need to go to a backup. If somebody goes down, they have another good football player to come in. I think that they're going to be explosive offensively this year. They're going to be able to stop the run on defense. I think they're going to have a bowl-eligible football team.
I mean, they were close last year with a porous offensive line. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think anybody would disagree with either one of us there. You know, the minute that offensive line got banged up, so did Shador, man. Bless his heart. How good is he? I feel like he's a first-round grade guy. Any pushback on that from you? You're the expert here.
He's a first round. He's going to go in the first round.
Okay.
He's a first-round draft pick. He's been graded out their way as such by all the NFL scouts front office. I don't expect to see him go outside of maybe pick 8.
He was fantastic.
I would say 5, but the one thing about the draft, you just never know what people's positional needs are. So a lot of it just depends on who's drafting and what the order is. But he's definitely going to go, inside of the top 8.
Okay. Before we get to what I think is the game of the week, I want to get your take. I got to give the viewers a little insight. If you have a dynasty football league, like I do, just grab Shador Sanders on my team. Only cost me $1. I have no idea why the rest of the league let me get over like that. Hold on. I want you to hear this from me, Reed. I'm sitting on Ollie Gordon, Omarion Hampton from Carolina, the running back. I'm sitting on Shador. I'm sitting on McMillan from Arizona. I'm sitting on Hunter. And I'm sitting on your boy. Let's go back to the 314. Luther Burden from Missouri. I got 6 guys on my team. Roster's 20 guys. I'm going to play it short with 14. If I can't get it done with those 14, I just can't get it done. I got what I feel like are 6 of the best dudes in the whole draft class waiting to come be a part of the big roster next year. Hey, it feels like G League Ignite. Like I'm Adam Silver out here, man. I'm the commissioner.
Well, you got 2 of my favorites, probably my 2 favorites in Shador and Luther, right? That's enough. You didn't need any. And Ollie Gordon, you know.
That boy's a problem, man.
You should be competitive. I would say that.
Yo, so the best part of this is that those guys don't even play. You know, I'll be thinking ahead. They don't even play for me this year. They play next year.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I hope the rest of my league isn't watching because that's how I'm beating all these boys, man. I go and get mine early, pay the tab, let them sit on ice. If I can't beat y'all with 14, I can't beat you with 20.
Mm-hmm. I feel
we only play 8 guys, or it's 9. We only play 9 guys a week. I'm locked in. I'm loaded, man. So I always like to get your take on my young Bulls. Malik Neighbors last year was a conversation that you and I had. Brian Thomas, and you're like, I think Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, they're different, but they're one and the same. Mm-hmm. So you know what I immediately did? Went and grabbed Brian Thomas too. So just know that I appreciate you, man. Talk to me about Lincoln Riley, Southern California versus LSU. Marquee game. It's that Sunday night game, the only game of the week. On that night, can they get it done?
Can they? Yes, they can. The Lincoln's going to score. Okay. They're going to score on offense. It doesn't matter who's on offense. He's going to score. They did a complete overhaul of the defensive staff, right? So if they can get, they're going to need 4 stops. They got to get 4 stops. If they get 4 stops, they can win the game. But you got to stop LSU from scoring. LSU has an incredible offensive line this year, led by Will Campbell and Emory Jones, both guys that are going to go in the first round.
Yes, sir.
They're going to – Grant Nussmeier has been waiting on his turn to play quarterback. I think he's going to have an incredible season. Cortez Hankin, the receivers coach, produces NFL wide receivers. I think it's going to be an extremely tough game, and I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Give me if you said four stops, right? Give me a key for them on offense. Obviously, brand new quarterback for Southern Cal. Obviously, just named a bunch of the LSU. They got pros, right? So we'll stick to Southern Cal on this. Can the offense be dynamic enough to put up the low 30s against LSU on the road in Baton Rouge? That place is going to be jumping. Top 25 matchup, first weekend out. Those folks will have been drinking since 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Can they get it done?
I think that they can. I don't know that they will. Okay. You know, they're going to be able to score points. I see you trying to back me in the corner to choose a winner here.
No. I genuinely like your insight. So, but Miller Moss gave them some good possessions last year in the bowl game.
This is going to be Miller Moss's coming out party was the bowl game.
Absolutely.
And now he's going to go against a defense with a bunch of, NFL talent on it. Harold Perkins rushing because you got to identify Perkins and get him blocked.
Hey, you see what they just gave him the fame number 7 this weekend, rightfully so. That cat's a problem, man, and that's why I asked that about Moss. He hadn't seen Harold Perkins yet. He's seen some stuff, but it ain't been perfect, man.
I'm excited about the game, B. I can tell you that for sure.
Is there any other game on your that one for me is the one that's on the radar now? You know me, know where my heart lies. About 45 minutes from my front door, up in Athens. But Saturday's game is about 45 minutes south of my front door at Mercedes-Benz, Georgia and Clemson. Obviously, Georgia's going to be the favorite there, but the running back room's a little shallow, especially if ETN doesn't play due to suspension, potential one-game suspension, for some off-field stuff. We could be a little thin there. That gives me a little bit of pause, but walk me through what Clemson's got to do to beat Georgia, man.
Well, they got Carson Beck is coming to his own. Carson Beck, I think, can beat you through the air now. So Georgia wants to run the ball. They want to play downhill. I'm going to be honest. I think they've recruited well enough where somebody's going to grab that ball and run it behind an offensive line that's filled with NFL talent. Carson Beck is going to make some throws. Dominic Lovett, who I love at receiver, I think he's from a place I'm familiar with. I don't have
not again.
You know what I mean? But You know,
Wait, hold up. He must be from Detroit.
oh my God, here we go. But no, Dominic Lovett. I think Georgia has the pieces. I think Georgia is in well positioned in that game.
Can Klubnik get it? I mean, again, you got to be thinking low 30s if you're playing Kirby, especially on the road in a neutral site, weather friendly building like Mercedes Benz. Can Clemson find a way to 30? Like, even when you look at the Tech Florida State game the other day, obviously Florida State wasn't going to be as high octane offensively as a Nussmeier led LSU or a Beck led Georgia. But is there any way that they can find their way into the low 30s and be able to keep this thing close? Like, what does that look like from your eye with Club?
They can't turn the ball over. That's the big thing. Cade Klubnik is a good quarterback, but he has had some devastating turnovers for Clemson in key moments. And so he has to mature into the point where he can play mistake-free football and not turn the ball over. So if he takes care of the football, Clemson can really stay in this thing and have a chance to win it at the end.
Last question for you. If you were the general manager, by the way, the general manager is like the hottest new position in football. If y'all haven't heard us say that, you probably haven't listened to us, but definitely want to touch on this. If you were the general manager at Clemson, I think it's a safe statement here that Clemson's maybe taken a step back in the national hierarchy over the past 24 months. Obviously, the transfer portal has been a source of contention with Dabo, and so has been paying players in the new NIL era. You're the GM at Clemson. What's your first conversation look like when you get both feet on campus? Or maybe even before you accept the job, what do you talk to Dabo about in terms of really getting the ship back to where they're at the top of the hierarchy and not toward the middle or the bottom of the top 25?
I would ask him what his profile of player that he would take out of the transfer portal looks like, and I would go get that player. I think Dabo is a competitor. I don't think he is. He's as competitive as any guy that you ever been around, and he wants to win. And winning to him is national championships. I don't think he's against the portal in the way that people think. I do think he's against guys disrupting his culture, right? So I think that you have to find out from him what is acceptable to him in terms of guys that you would take out of the portal, and then you have to go find those guys because this still is Clemson, and you should be able to get active with the very best players in the country.
Give us a thought on that from your standpoint. Knowing Dabo the way that you do, obviously you've got a good relationship with him. You had a chance to interview him, all these kinds of things over the years when you were a legendary high school coach, not just a good one, legendary, right? Recruited players in your program, the whole nine. What's a prototype of a guy that you feel like would fit at Clemson with Dabo coming from the portal? What would that look like? Obviously, his answer might be a little different, but give us your answer here.
It's a guy with incredible character. He's not really in the guys that that have off the field issues. That's not really his thing. It'll be tough for you to make it there. So guys that are really great players, but they do have incredible character. And I think that a lot of times what gets lost is people think that great player means that they have issues. They don't all have issues. It's a lot of dudes who can really play that don't have off the field issues.
I love that. Fill our listeners in on your take on the general manager position as a whole in totality. Again, what you're seeing, this is what it looks like. This is what they're in control of day to day and what that looks like before we get out of here.
I don't think that you can win now without it. I think that it's too much going on. When you add the transfer portal, when you add NIL into the equation, those are things that coaches are not prepared to do. So you have to have somebody that's right next to you. Can you recruit and coach? How much time in a day do you have? It used to be a day where you go in your office and you would just make recruiting calls. The problem is that your players couldn't leave, right? So now that your players can leave, you don't necessarily have time to make recruiting calls. You have to manage the guys that are in your room. So you need somebody else in a different department to make those recruiting calls, develop those relationships, deal with those guys from you, and keep that part of the program organized. And everybody needs a general manager. I don't care if you're in football, men's and women's basketball, to me, need one as well.
I love it, man. How long before everybody has one? We're getting close. Courtney Morgan keeps pushing the clock up and the price up, man. How long before it happens?
18 months.
You heard it here first. Christmas of 2025.
Yeah,
At the end of the 2025 college season, everybody's going to have one. I love it, man. Well, I'm locked in for this week. I think to your point about, the Clemson deal, it'll be interesting to see, what they bring to the table versus Georgia, see if they've been able to right a couple of the wrongs, because there were just some mediocre games that we're not used to seeing from Clemson. As someone who lives in an hour, 15 minutes from campus max, I'm used to them now being a juggernaut, and they haven't necessarily been that the past couple of years, man. What you got going this week before everything kicks off week one, man? Tell us what you're on.
Smoke and I, obviously, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 o'clock. We got James Blanchard tomorrow, general manager at Texas Tech, is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow. I'm really excited about getting an opportunity to sit down.
Hey, give us the quick background. Don't spoil the show, but give us the quick background on what he's got going over there. It's him and Courtney Morgan to me, but give me the background real quick for our viewers before we get out.
You also got to throw Brandon Harris from Texas in there with those two, who's also elite. Joey McGuire is giving him total control of the front office and the recruiting operations, something that's been unprecedented in college. So I'm excited about sitting down, talking with him tomorrow and seeing what that looks like.
I can't wait to tune in. Hey, Reed, I'm locked in. I'm ready for week one. Obviously, some basketball. I'm working on the 24/7 Sports, the database, getting ready for our initial launch. Big Georgia commitment today, actually. Need to shout out the old University of Georgia crew on the women's side. They landed Aubrey Beckham. She lives about 15 minutes from headquarters here. That's a really good get for them. That's the type of kid that they've got to get. On the flip side of that, Nell Fortner, Georgia Tech did a really good job in the 24 class. Again, landing kids from Atlanta. And I've always said, if you can get you're not going to get everybody. Some of those kids want to go away from home. But if you can get a couple, your boy Drake has done it at Mizzou. If you can get a couple kids to stay home, you can build classes around those kids. A really big in-state win today for Georgia. Look for more coverage on my social media here later on tonight and into tomorrow.
Listen, last thing before we get out of here. I saw some film on the internet this weekend on Aaliyah Chavez. Am I saying the name correctly?
You are.
Aaliyah, and she has a big game, and she talks a lot of trash.
She's right up your alley.
I love it, and I'm going to tell you what. She should go to the University of Missouri, right? Hey, I'll put something on it.
That's hilarious. I will say this. I will say this on her behalf. Obviously, she can go wherever she wants in the country. But to me right now, it's her and then the young lady, Kalina Smith, out of California, 2027. Those two, at least in this moment, have kind of separated themselves. I like seeing a Betson 25, big kid, front court kid, Sister Lawrence at UCLA. But I was talking with Jason Key from ESPN a little earlier today, talked with Shane Laughlin last week, kind of the same conversation, coming off the heels of the summer of who's separated themselves, who's taken themselves to the next level. And obviously, we have several college coaches that tune into our show every week. They've had a lot of thoughts on the topic as well. And Aaliyah's right there at the top of the list. Hey, I like that you tuning into the game, Reed. It's going to keep you from getting smoked the next time somebody whiffs in the WNBA.
I'm out of here.
That's my boy Smoke, man.
We out. We'll see y'all next week.